are you? And welcome to perhaps the most planned, unplanned video of my entire life. The only thing planned about this video is my makeup. As you can see, I have tried to match it to the book that I am going to be reviewing, and that is this one, which is Beautiful World, Where Are You by Sally Rooney. Now, this book I have been planning to review from like a year now, which is when like this book, like I thought that it was like I heard of it. And then I actually though started planning to review this book a month ago, which is when it released. I read it immediately, and then that's when the problem happened, because I read it and I had just like, I didn't know how to review it. Because here's the thing, objectively I gave this a 5-star. I thought that this book was great for me, though I do see why this is going to be not liked by many. I can see the criticisms and I can understand them completely, which is why I'm just like, do I really give this a 5-star? Or because if I'm agreeing with the criticisms, where do I stand? So I was very confused about it, and then I just sat on it for essentially a month, because I was like, how am I going to talk about this? So I still don't know. So this is going to be very unplanned in terms of like, I have no script, nothing. I'm just gonna talk from the heart. Really talk from the heart. So it's going to be a little incoherent, and I apologize in advance for it. I also apologize in advance because there may be like firecrackers and like a band downstairs, because it's like a festival time in India, and people are celebrating. But this video just isn't going to be just like, I don't know, you know what I mean? There is like still a little bit of a plan that I have in mind, because essentially what happened is that when I had all of these questions about how am I going to review this book about 2 weeks ago, I asked y'all on Instagram as well as on YouTube itself, as to like, tell me, like ask me your questions about this book so that I can answer them. And a bunch of y'all asked very pertinent questions, which I am going to answer in the end. But also one person on YouTube gave me a very good idea, which is to just like list down the reasons and the things that I liked about it and things that I probably didn't like about it. So I'm going to do it in a way where I am going to talk about the good, the meh, and the questionable, because objectively I don't think there's anything bad about this book, but let's see. So in terms of the flow of the video, there is going to be me telling you about the plot, me just giving you quick like review like thingies, and then my like feelings about this book in terms of the good, the meh, and the questionable, and then we move on to like answering any other questions that people might have had, which didn't get answered in like the previous plots, like previous parts. Make sense? I hope it makes sense. Okay, let's just get into it. So the first one is plot, and what is this book about? Essentially we are following 4 people in this book. The first person being Alice, who is an Irish author who has written 2 contemporary novels before that have been like just huge successes, have taken the literary world by storm, and now she is in like a village of sorts, like in the countryside in England, where she's kind of like recuperating because she had like a little bit of a trouble over the past few years, just mental health wise, and yeah, that's what she's doing. So of course you can see the correlations between Alice and Sally Rooney, the author herself, that it sounds like they may be the same people, but yeah, so we see that, and in the first chapter itself we see that she has gone on a date through like the internet, like so like Tinder or Hinge or whatever, and she meets this guy called Felix. Now Felix is very different from her. He works at a warehouse, and class wise they are very different in terms of like that, but also they are very different in terms of people, but they decide to hang out, and like in their probably like their second meeting, Alice just says, hey, I am going to Rome for like some book stuff, do you want to come with me? And he's like, you're weird, but like sure, why not, you're paying for it. So they decide to go to Rome, and you basically see how their relationship over this period of time, not only in Rome but also afterwards, sort of like develops and becomes whatever it does become. On the other hand, in Dublin, we have her best friend Eileen, who is working in the publishing industry, where she sort of is like a proofreader of sorts. And yeah, so we had to follow her as well as her best friend from like her childhood days, Simon. And Simon and her have like this weird sort of like will they won't they sort of relationship. He is a couple of years older to her. And yeah, we basically get to like see all of these relationships sort of chart out. And that's what the book is about. And now that I think of it, I think I need to get into my thoughts based on the good, the meh, and the questionable, and give you my thoughts about the book in the end, because they're all sort of correlated to this anyway. Now, the first thing in good I am going to have to say is writing. I think Sally Rooney objectively is a really good writer. If you have read any of her past works and even not liked it, I think you can agree that she is a good writer if you remove like the plot and the characters and all of that sort of stuff. Just in the way that she writes, I think she writes really, really well. It is readable, it is wonderful. I like the use of her language, and writing to me is like a plus for sure. Another thing that I think she does extremely well, especially in this book, and I feel like she has put just so much of an emphasis on this particular thing, which is atmosphere, which is building the place that we're in, building these emotions, building everything. In fact, there are times in this book where she will direct you to like looking at a certain thing, like it's a director almost just being like, look at this aspect of it. It felt like a movie in my head, where she's like, this person has left the room, and like just look at the banister now, just look at what that is trying to say. And it just felt like this book was being narrated and like directed and like shown in my head because of that, and I really, really appreciated that. I really like it when books can do that to you, and I think that this was done very, very purposefully, because that's the whole idea of like the book title, right, which is Beautiful World, Where Are You, where you are described this world. And I think that's like, I don't know if that makes sense to you, but like, yeah, I just felt like atmosphere wise this book was just chef's kiss amazing. And the third thing that I think she did really, really well with this book is characters. Now, say what you will about Sally Rooney and like her characters, you may like them, you may dislike them, but they will stay with you. You sort of know them as people, and they will stick with you. Their personalities will stick with you. At least like that's what I have felt. And yeah, I really liked these characters, and that is a thing that has to be noted about this book, that this book felt like a very character driven book and not so much a plot driven book. Sure, there is a plot that is like going through this book, but more than anything this was about the characters and about the way that they interact with each other, and the way that they interact with the world, and what they think of the world and all of that sort of stuff. So yeah, I really liked the characters. I thought that there were at times very, very unlikable. At times I absolutely fell in love with them. My favorite, of course, in this have to be Eileen and Simon. I just really liked their sort of relationship, and their relationship kind of like called me out in a lot of ways, because I have a sort of relationship like that, sort of, not fully obviously, but in very many ways. So yeah, I really liked to see that on page, and yeah, that's what I have to say about characters. In terms of meh, I would say the plot. I think the plot was good. I don't think that it was bad, but it wasn't a very plot heavy book. So if that is something that you are really looking for, then this is not going to be the book that like I would suggest you go into. Though I did like it and I did like where it was going, but as I said, this is a very character driven book, and like it's really trying to show you how these characters sort of interact. So there's that. Another aspect of this book is the emails, and now these emails are emails that Alice and Eileen write to each other, and you see these between various chapters, and these are not necessarily related to the plot, but are basically their thoughts on the world, on like the publishing industry, or the beauty industry, or like just beauty in general, or like just generally they cover a wide variety of topics, consumerism, Marxism, just a bunch of stuff about climate change and all of that sort of stuff. And it may feel a little disconnected, and a lot of people may say that, like, which friends talk like this? And to you, I would say, get new friends. And just perhaps, like, challenge yourself to actually talk to your friends about these topics, because I do this with my friends. It didn't feel like strange to me, though it did feel kind of strange sometimes, where I was just like, where is she going with this? I felt like this was sort of like Sally Rooney's way of, like, incorporating some of her thoughts about the world, and just like things like that into this book. It almost felt like there was a parallel book of sorts, where, like, we get to see Sally Rooney's, like, essays on certain topics. So I thought that it sometimes felt a little like, where are we going with this? But, like, ultimately I appreciated it. I didn't personally, like, hate it as much, but I can totally see why people would not like it, because it just felt also kind of like first worldy, which brings me to the questionable, which is that it just, like, I feel like a lot of people are going to look at this book and going to look at those emails in particular and are going to think that they are just very whiny, and very, like, white women seeking issues in the world and talking about issues in the world. And I get that. I kind of see it, like, where we're talking about, like, oh, fast fashion, or about, like, coffee, or where, I don't know, like, how is it that people in the third world are doing all of these things and working so hard in order for you to just, like, have all of these things in a supermarket. I don't know, it's I can see why people do not like it, and I can see why people think that it might come off just like why. But I personally also understand it, but I also kind of like liked it. I don't know, I am still very confused about this one. But personally I didn't really think that it hindered my experience as much, but that's why it kind of, like, was on the meh to the questionable aspect of it. But yeah, that's those are my thoughts on the emails. Let me know if you have read the book, what your thoughts were. But yeah, like, that's essentially where we stand. And to just add on to that, I also, like, liked the emails, because these were lots of things that I personally am also chatting with my friends about, and just, like, also thinking about with regards to the world. And it just, I really liked Sally Rooney's perspective on these things, and, like, the characters' perspectives on these things. So yeah, like, it wasn't too bad, but I can see why it's just, like, off also, you know what I mean? Going back to the meh, but possibly in the good, I actually also really liked the topics that were covered, though I do wish that they were covered a little more and a little more in depth. And those were of class and of religion. For example, Simon is a very religious person. He is a person who believes in, like, Catholicism, I don't know. And he goes to church. He doesn't, like, force it down on people, but it's just something that he believes in. And just given, like, the sort of people and that we are in terms of, like, this millennial generation, we're not a very religious, like, I don't know, people, I guess. At least, like, my group is. So it's very interesting to see their thoughts on Simon being this religious, and of Simon being religious, and just, like, being this person who believes in the Catholic faith. And yeah, I liked those aspects of it. I also liked, in terms of, like, class, where we saw Felix and how he saw the world, and how that was so different from the world of Alice, which is this literary, like, bourgeois sort of society. So yeah, so I really liked those, to see those differences, and to see them talk about it as well. So yeah, those are things that I liked, but I wish, like, it was maybe done a little more. And yeah, that's that. And then in terms of the disappointing, I think or, like, sort of meh, I didn't really hate it, but the ending, I thought the ending was a little, like, abrupt, maybe, of sorts. it like tied up in like this neat little bow, which is very different than what Sally Rooney usually does. Sally Rooney's endings in her previous books have been very like ambiguous, and it's just sort of like a chapter of their life which is over, and then we don't really know what the next chapter is. But in this one we sort of do know what the next chapter is, and it's very like happy, which is, I was like, it was very interesting that all four of them got a very happy ending, and I was like, I was like, Jesus, really? Like all four of them got a happy ending. Sure, okay. So that just felt very different. But like, to me, I was like, is Sally Rooney doing this on purpose? Because everyone's been saying that Sally Rooney like never gives you happy endings, and now she's like, oh yeah, I give you a happy ending. You have all four of them happy endings. So I don't know what she was thinking. Maybe like we just needed like happy endings. Lol, happy endings in 2021. Maybe that's what we needed. I don't know what she was thinking, but like it, to me, I didn't particularly like it. Maybe I just don't like happy endings. I do like the other sort of happy endings, if you know what I mean. But in terms of books, I was just like, oh, so cool in terms of like my thoughts based on like just everything that you saw me talking about this book. I really liked it in a lot of ways. I also questioned it in a lot of ways, but I did not dislike it. To me in particular, I really liked the relationship between Eileen and Simon, and the conversations that they had. It was very frustrating, but also like I've been there, done that. So I was like, this is very interesting to me. So yeah, so I think that's what that Sally Rooney does. She is very, very close to my age. That is, she is actually a year younger than me. She's 30 years old. She's 30 years old. Can you imagine? She's 30 years old and she's written these books. So I feel like she's lived like experiences that are very like close to mine. So even if they are some things that I have not gone through personally, it's like maybe someone else I know has gone through them. So that's why I have always like really appreciated her books and characters, and because I can see like either myself or like someone else in them. So yeah, that's basically my thoughts with regards to that. I really liked the relationships and the way that it panned out. I liked the friendships as well. I thought that the friendship between Alice and Eileen were very, very believable. Also hard to relate with regards to that. So yeah, in totality, I really liked the book. I gave this a 5-star, but also I can see why people dislike the book. And yeah, and they may dislike it for the exact same reasons why I have liked it. So I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you. But let me now go into the questions that you've had. The very first question that I think I need to answer is, why is Sally Rooney popular? Now that is a very good question, because here's the thing. She's written only 2 books in the past, and these 2 books are very millennial fiction, and I feel like just because that it was millennial fiction and because it was so polarizing, because there were some people who absolutely loved these books and there are some people who absolutely hated it, that like she became really popular, because people were either like saying that this book is the best thing ever or saying that this book sucks, why are people liking it so much. So that's one of the reasons why this all happened. Also there were a lot of people who were like, Sally Rooney is like the voice of this generation, of the millennial generation, which like I mean, that just puts on a lot of like, puts her on a pedestal, which is why like she's so popular as well. Do I think that she is the voice of this generation? No, I think that there are a lot of other people who are like also similarly good and speak about the millennial like experience. So she's not like the core person who talks about the experience, but I do think that she does it pretty well, just in terms of like my experiences personally. So yeah, so that's basically why she's so popular, because she's had both these books that are just very, very people either love them or hate them, or love to hate them. So yeah, that's basically what it is. The second question is, what is the hype about, or is it worth the hype, or should you skip it? And for this, I would say that because of the previous like thing which I answered, which was that like these 2 books, also one of her books, which is Normal People, was made into like a TV series which was pretty popular. That's why this hype existed. Also, as I have said, like her books have had 2 very polarizing thoughts, which is either they have loved them or they've hated them, and people love to hate on her as well, which is why I think the publishers very purposefully just fully pushed this book, because they were like, either the people who are really going to love it are going to pick it up immediately, or the people who are really going to hate it are also going to pick it up to hate on it. And that's exactly what happened. So yeah, good job, I guess, publishing. But I guess a lot of people have been seeing this on their feeds and are getting slightly irritated with the amount of it being seen, because like the publishing world has been pushing it, but also people have been acting on the FOMO that because they're seeing it on other people's feed, they also want to pick it up. It's like a whole thing that goes on. I think they have done a pretty good job with the marketing, if you ask me. But yeah, should people pick this up? I don't know. I feel like if you are a person who have experienced messy relationships, who are from this generation, who have liked the previous books, maybe, or liked the, or like seen yourself or something within those books, or like you've given it maybe like a 3-star and above, then I think that you should pick this book up. I think that it did a very good job in terms of actually marrying these two books, which was one about a dysfunctional relationship and two about friendship, and that's basically the plot of this book, which is like you're basically getting to see those two books put together. I also think that this is her best book. I think that she's really grown as a writer and she has done a tremendous job with this one. So yeah, I think that is this book worth the hype? I don't know, because there's just way too much of a hype with regards to this book, but I think that it is a good book, and it can definitely be good to pick up, but like yeah, the hype train is quite a lot, so don't go with regards to that. Like if you don't like messy relationships, if you don't like that sort of world, then maybe just like let it go. It's fine. It's there are so many other books that you can read. I'm sure your TBR pile is just like up there. So yeah, so just keep that in mind and then choose your book. You don't have to go according to hype. Another question is how different is it from Normal People, and also how would you compare it to her previous books? As I have said, I think that she has come a long way from Normal People, which was her first book. It still does have the aspects of a messy relationship or just relationships in general and seeing how they pan out. So that remains the same. However, I do think that she has done a much better job in terms of like these characters are way more mature. They talk about their feelings, etc. much more. So like it's not just like miscommunication tropes or like, you know, just like that sort of stuff happening. Of course there is, but it's just more nuanced. Personally, that's what I felt, at least. And I feel like she's grown in terms of a writer, but also the characters have grown. So yeah, so if you look at Normal People, I would say like Normal People was based in university. This is based like much later in life, in your like early 30s, late 20s. So just keep that in mind as well. Is the writing good? Yes, I liked it. The next question, oh, my battery is low, is does it come off as pretentious? Yes, it sort of does, sort of, maybe. It is very white people centric. There are not too many like people of color involved, though you don't know, because she doesn't really describe the people. So like maybe the people who she interacts with, you don't know, but they could be people of color, but you don't really know. So like you can't really say there are no people of color in this book. But yeah, it does come off just maybe just slightly pretentious. Well, trigger warnings, I would say that mental illness, there is a lot of sexual content in this book. There is a lot of sex on page. There is like phone sex, there is actual sex, there's a lot of sex. So if sex is something that you don't want to read on page, then maybe like be aware of that. Though I thought it was well done. There's also like suicidal thoughts that is there. And then, oh, my battery is really dying. It's really like blinking. Should you buy it? I don't know. Do your research, see like reviews, see whatever I have said. I have literally no idea what I've said, but yeah, those are basically my thoughts. I'm so sorry, my battery is like really just like going to die, and if I don't complete this, I will never be able to do this video ever again. I just know that I won't. So I'm just gonna say bye for now. And if you have any questions, do tell me down in the comments. I'll be happy to answer them all. And that's all for now. I hope that you are fine, that you are doing well, and I will see you in my next video. Okay, bye.